What's up, everybody? Welcome to the inaugural episode of Campfire Conversations. I'm here with the one, the only, the infamous Andrew Smith from ThinkUncommon.com. What's going on, man?
Infamous. I don't know what I need to know about that you've heard.
I was gonna say famous, but with the hat slightly tilted, I was gonna say. It just seems like it would be an infamous.
You know what? If I'm neither of those things, I think I'm probably happy. That's fine. I don't need to be famous. Being infamous has just these connotations. I'm good with it.
All right.
Keep sitting here with my unnecessarily hot garb and a fake cigar.
All right. But it looks like, super classy. It's kind of like this weird thing in my brain because you're on the new 21st century Zoom call or whatnot, and you look like you're from the 50s.
Well, I think I have the heart of the 50s built into me. I come from Melbourne. I'm going to use it as a segue to my drink.
Perfect.
All right. Special drinks.
All right.
So I come from Melbourne in Australia. I could come in and start going, "G'day, cobbers," or something, so that you believe me. But just trust that I'm from Australia. I know I sound British to Americans, but whatever. So I've of course come with an espresso martini, equal parts espresso, Kahlua, and vodka. This is a vanilla vodka, actually. It makes it a delightful bit sweeter. So Melbourne is the unofficial home to the espresso martini. I'm pretty sure it wasn't invented there, but what Australians are really good at is taking something, getting obsessed with it, and then it becomes it's everywhere. So no Melburnian doesn't finich the week without an espresso martini, I'm pretty sure. So cheers to you, friend.
Really?
I won't take a sip yet because I've got to hear about your drink first.
Cheers to you. Absolutely. So I was super excited to bring on, because we've only been drinking homemade wine that we made 6 to 8 months ago, because I'm upstate New York. I'm not in the city anymore. I'm actually upstate in the woods where we actually make our own wine. So I was super excited, but it was painfully apparent when I went and looked for it, we're out. So that's how long we've been in quarantine for. We're gone. So I took
welcome to every bar in the world.
Exactly. Right, we're literally out of the gallon of homemade wine that we made for, we didn't make it for this time, but it ended up taking front and center stage. So instead, I used my my mason jar mug, and I poured a beer in it because that's all I had left.
Nice. So I good on you. With drinking skills like that, we'll probably make you an honorary Australian, I think.
Oh, I love it.
Cheers to you.
Cheers to you too, my brother.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I had no idea that was the drink started by Australians or started by Melbourne, by the way.
I'm fairly sure it's not started. Let's not get me in trouble. I think it's so many hate Twitter messages from the Italians who are like, "Hey, we've been drinking that for longer than you've been a formerly modern country." I think, I don't know. Who knows? Australia's got a wonderful history. It's got the oldest living culture on the earth. We just cling to our cities around the coast. We're all in big cities, to be fair. But Melbourne's the home of culture in Australia, in my view. Well, at least when it comes to drinking culture and arts culture, I'll give it that much. But there are certainly other parts of Australia that have incredible cultures to it. But anyway, cheers to Melbourne's drink.
Yeah.
Should we explain why we're dressed up, by the way? Is that weird?
Probably. I feel like we should give some color to that, because we called it a campfire conversation, but I feel like neither you nor I would go to a campfire dressed like this. Or maybe. So why don't you explain why we're dressed this way?
We originally threw around the ideas of this as an idea of this conversation, this idea of talking to the issues that are facing retail everywhere, from people who just want to talk about it and not want to feel like they have to have all the answers. I think you said it beautifully in one of our conversations leading up to this. There are so many panels of people saying, this is what's going to happen, this is what you need to be doing. I don't think anyone knows what's going to happen with certainty. And I think any really good strategist never does. What they do is they build in the idea of throwing things around a room and seeing which ones make sense and which aligns to what they're doing, their business is meant to be doing. And it gets them in the mindset, I think, of being prepared for the ultimate, reopening of the world's economies. It's going to happen at one point. Retail is this incredible industry. I think it's such a really blend of feelings, because I'm so proud of retail right now. Retail has stood up and, rocked up to work to ensure we're all fed and watered and entertained and everything else that we need delivered to homes. And there's people behind the scenes, the delivery drivers, the warehouse workers. Retail's really stood up to the plate in the crisis. And I think that's incredible. And there's this beautiful story that I hope will come out of it about how, retail is this family, which anyone who's been in retail knows it. And anyone who's been in retail knows that retail has this incredible family feel to it. You rock up to work every day and go to battle with these, people next to you, shoulder to shoulder, face the best of humanity, the worst of humanity through these challenging times. And it's been a tough time of disruption for retail over the last few years. It's been up until January, you would have heard me rant that retail's not having an economic crisis; it's having an existential one. And then, bam, this happens, and wow, we've got both now. Like, we're in an economic crisis, and there's a bunch of people that are out of jobs and doing it tough. There's a whole bunch of people who are sick. There'll be people who have lost loved ones or have had loved ones sick throughout all of this as well. Who are furloughed workers. It's devastating to see that happen to your broader family, people you've not met but you still consider your family. And that, as I said, is what retail is all about. So it's kind of heartbreaking at that in that way, but it's also heartwarming to watch how people do just get the job done and put their health at risk and get to work and do amazing, cool stuff to help, push ideas through, push new processes through, just so we can get our favorite, mac and cheese. Let me play to the American audience. Right. What do we need, and how do we get it, and how do we do it faster? Like, the amount of retailers now that have stood up online ordering, pick up, curbside, all of this stuff, innovations that consumers have been demanding in small clumps. Mm-hmm. It's all of a sudden going to become mainstream. And I think that's really cool. And I think the optimism of retail to do that at such pace, I think is just incredible. And we're going to be stronger for it, no doubt. Now, of course, there's going to be some devastating stories of businesses that couldn't make it through, or people that, can't get hired straight up and have to look at a different career, and, all of those things. And I, again, my heart breaks for that bit. But there's this optimistic side of me that also says, as an industry, we've faced every disruption and come out better for it. This is just another one. We were, knee deep in the existential crisis of, physical, digital, blah, blah. The internet changed the way retailers need to retail. People were trying to work out how to innovate and get ready for it. Whereas, now we got slapped with this economic crisis as well. And, we'll be stronger for it. I'm sure of it at the end. But that's enough of a rant. Sorry, I'll have a sip and give you a chance to say something.
No, I think everything you said there is super correct. And I think you and I, reason we're doing this is because it's really through conversation, I think, that we're going to sort of discover as we go along. It's not like you and I are going to discover today, oh my God, we have this breakthrough about here's how we're going to attack next month, the month after, the month after, the month after. I think it's just a continual conversation, as opposed to simply let's establish the one set plan right now, and let's figure out let's plan out the next 6 months right now, today. So I think that's, just starting that conversation about, because to your point of yes, it was already in a tough point prior to this. And now that we have the economic layer onto it, it just increasingly complicates the situation, I would say. So, Andrew, on that, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, it does complicate it, but it also gives you a kind of a proverbial kick up the butt. It will. If I look at places where, I was talking to a wonderful human who I have regular contacts with. We have a reverse mentor situation. We both help each other. She works for a major retailer in the US, and she was talking about, I wish it could be like this all the time. I wish that there was, this red tape was gone. I wish there was this alignment in the leadership team. I wish there was this kind of common purpose and belief in what we do, because we're awesome when we're doing that. And, I think if I look at that story and kind of broad brush that across retail as an industry, I think that's an incredible opportunity. If we look at what we can create, mm-hmm. In times of crisis, and then look at that as an inspiration to kind of replicate that more often, I think that mm-hmm. would be amazing. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons I do what I do now is because retailers struggle with rate of change, rate of innovation, I guess. Now, the retailers do some incredible innovation, but doing, how to do it and test constantly and build constantly and fail constantly and all of those kind of relatively cliched innovation terms. Like, this could be a great chance. There'll be a whole bunch of retailers out there who are trying new stuff because, crap, what else are we going to do? Like, we're screwed at the moment. We've got to try and come up with something so we can keep our customer base. Like, that mindset is actually not just one for crisis. It could be one that we use more commonly, but we don't for some reason. And so hopefully this shifts a whole bunch of people's mindset, I reckon, about what it can be for the future.
So on that note, how do you recommend, because you're used to training retailers through constant innovation, sort of adapting to the times, given that we don't know what's going to happen, like no one knows what next month will be like or the month after, like in your opinion, I guess, what's the way to think about being, let's say, more reactionary or setting contingency plans in place and putting in like multiple tests or one test just to get started?
Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing topic to think through, because part of me wants to go, just think of the new consumer and what the new consumer is going to be doing. There's a whole bunch of people who have not been digitally native, who are going to be taking on digital behaviors, through this crisis because they have to, like curbside pickup. I was talking to my partner's incredible, wonderful parents who were using curbside pickup, which, they're having to forego their regular outing of going to get the shop. And I sit there and think, this is incredible because they're using this experience for the first time, and it might be something that some of us who, are digitally native are, a little more savvy to. Age has nothing to do with it, by the way. I'm not meaning to suggest that because they're older, they're not digitally native. That's not true. And I hate people that I hate organizations that group people into age groups because it doesn't make sense. It's behavior that matters. They weren't digitally native. They have been forced to become digitally behaved, at least in some extent. They're going to potentially see value in that in the future. So like that, those digital capabilities that we've been forced to use are going to be probably more common. And it'll reset expectations. When Uber came in, Uber disrupted retail too, because it showed you how transparency and swiftness and completely digitally enabled solutions should be, and therefore every retailer that had an app was all of a sudden being measured by the customer against what Uber's doing for them. And there's 1,000 examples like that. And I think now people will have seen and experienced curbside pickup, online orders, deliveries, all that kind of stuff. So part of me is like, well, what is the new consumer behavioral element going to look like? What's the level of digital adoption versus not, blah, blah, blah. But also I think that's very pointed, and I think it'll mean something to some retailers and not others, and some people's jobs and not others. The best advice, like for me, the number one reason behind the slower rate of innovation and rate of change and adaptation and new things in retail is not because we don't want to, not because we don't have the ideas, but it's because we've got processes that we've believed in for 1,000 years. You look at the Istanbul markets to now, it's basically retail's a game of process. It's a game of kind of numbers and pace. And it's really difficult to shift your mindset to kind of thinking about what a tech company, for example, has just ingrained in their culture. So I'd be using this time right now, and it's if you have time, there are people who are at jobs, there are people who are freaked out about jobs, and I don't want to talk that down. That's scary as hell. But for those who are in the privileged position where they're actually genuinely just able to start thinking about their business, so working on the business instead of in the business for the first time in who knows when, that's a hard thing to do in a retailer. Think about that. Think about how you change culture, processes, leadership alignment, your purpose, and more transparency with your customer, and the governance processes, the funding allocations that you put towards innovation projects versus non-innovation projects, stuff like that. I'd say this is the right time to do a pivot, not of your brand, not of your position, not of your product, but of your internal workings. How do you shift a little bit and say, hey, change apparently is not only constant, but it's happening in every freaking angle, every freaking week. How do I build a business that can do it? So there's two types of resilient. My business partner, who is intensely smarter than me, it comes from being more than twice my age. I just had to throw that in there. He always talks about there's two types of resilience. There's resilience, which is, no, I will plant my feet and stand my ground. Retailers are really bloody good at that. Like, we're really good at kind of having our set ways. And then there is resilience, which is, how do I adapt to change constantly? And how am I ready to adapt to change constantly? Mm-hmm. And I think if you can have an espresso martini with yourself as a retailer right now, it would be, sit there and reflect on, how do I increase my rate of change? How do I increase my rate of innovation, my rate of evolution? Doesn't matter what you do, what your focus is, whether you're a DTC brand, direct-to-consumer brand that's about to come into physical retail. Sorry about the timing. If you're the opposite, a physical brand that's trying to adapt into the digital world a bit more, just think about that. Because I reckon if you're a retailer that has a core strength in being able to change and innovate fast, I reckon it doesn't matter what the disruption is, you're going to be ready for it. That was a long rant. Sorry, mate. Pick it apart. Go.
No, so I absolutely love the way that you phrase that, because I think that we hear often nowadays about, pivots being thrown around a million times a day, and it's always usually geared towards the product or the business model standpoint of, like, if you're a brick and mortar only business, you need to somehow pivot into a Zoom call business or a remote business or some kind of something. So I love the idea of taking it at an even deeper level and pivoting the internal structure. Like, nobody might see it, but you're completely pivoting the way that you work because you're sort of forced to right now, even if to the outside nothing has changed. Besides the fact that you're innovating faster because you've completely changed the way at the core level of your company you actually operate. So I love that, the way you said that. Do you go ahead?
So you go.
I was gonna say, do you think, because you had kind of touched upon it earlier with, retail was already at a certain point pre-COVID, and now it's, just intensified with some of these things you mentioned, like digital transformation and stuff, internal slowness in the retail world, what have you. Do you think what's happened in the last 6 weeks is just going to accelerate all of the change that probably should have been happening before? Or do you think the whole rule book's kind of been thrown out the window and you sort of have to look at it with fresh eyes, a new scenario, or is it a combination of the two?
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah, true.
Like, I don't reckon we know. If I look at places like, that have, I'm from Australia. Australia has been incredibly strict and has kind of responded relatively strongly. Probably not not as well as a New Zealand or a South Korea. But the way that it's pivoted is essentially people are allowed to go out, but operationally there's going to be some considerations you need to take into account. Whether it be South Korea, where you're measuring temperature of people coming into your store, social distancing guidelines being met within the store space. Reopening the economy doesn't mean that we've cured the thing. It just means that our economy is reopened. We've got to be smarter about it. So there's going to be an element of just immediate operational solutions. You just have to think about what your store, your physical and digital retail experience looks like in the immediate world. And then there's this longer term point, which I think comes back to the core of your question of, like, hey, does this change retail completely, or is it actually just helping retail catch up to consumer behavior? Mm-hmm. And I reckon it's probably closer to the latter. I think we've pushed a ton of stuff through the realization across boards and CEO levels and teams about the importance of, like, those integrated digital physical experiences, the actual role of a store. Something that a lot of people, including me, have ranted about for a long time. The role of stores pivoting considerably to being more of, like, your brand storytelling experience. It's your acquisition channel. That's why you see Allbirds, who are doing brilliantly, brands like them coming into the physical space because they want to grow and they want to expand their brand to new markets. So there is a purpose for this physical real estate, which is predominantly driven by the fact that we're a pack animal. Humans are a pack animal. We elevate ourselves a lot, when maybe sometimes it's important to think about what are our core evolved behaviors. And being a pack animal, wanting to get out, wanting to experience things, wanting to tell stories, hear stories, be part of stories, all that kind of stuff is really ingrained into who we are. So I think if I had a dream state, which is probably a better answer, because it's not, I'm not full of shit, basically. If I was to sit here and tell you this is what it's going to be like, this is what your customers are going to be like, this is what you should do as a brand, I'd be talking rubbish. Like, my dream state would be that this helps retailers massively accelerate digital capability, existing retailers. It helps humans, so consumers and people who work in retailers, realize the importance of the balance between digital and physical and the role of those two, so that at the end we can actually end up with what it is that the people who give us money want.
Right.
Which is, I want to be entertained, I want to be part of a story, I want to be, I want to know who I'm giving my money to, I want to feel good about giving my money to you. Increasingly, I want to be able to have the convenience of being able to do a whole bunch of stuff from my pocket, wherever I am. All of those things. If this does any good, if this crisis does any good, it'll be that it accelerates the capability so that retailers can start fulfilling that dream state, I think, in my mind anyway.
I completely agree. I mean, I think that if even a small margin of customer expectation driven by other industries that are non-retail oftentimes gets caught up, and retailers can adapt and service their customer in more places, that will be, an absolutely amazing outcome for everybody, especially the customer. At the end of the day, like you said it, like, you kind of laughed, like, the people who give us money, but at the end of the day, they give us money because we're wowing them or we're creating something for them.
We're a for-profit industry. And that's okay, because we should be. And it's like, because we all go to work for money. We're all for-profit people.
Right.
So it's like, there are non-profit organizations, of course, but, from a retail point of view, most of us are a for-profit industry. We might be a social enterprise, we might be all of those things, but, we shouldn't walk away from the commercial element. One of the things I talk about all the time, whether it be with friends or clients or whomever, I'm going to throw the question at you, by the way. In your video you mentioned, I'm going to have conversations with friends and acquaintances, and my partner said immediately, which one are you, by the way? All right, I'll put that to Nick on the call. Don't worry about it. Anyway, sorry, I'm ranting. I think there are two real drivers to, like, any retail business decision making. It's commercial imperative. What do I need to do to ensure I'm continually delivering on my commercial imperatives? Now, that might be to donate millions and millions of dollars to causes. Might be to donate millions and millions of dollars to rich shareholders. It might be whatever. Like, that's my commercial imperative, right? Lower costs, blah, blah, blah. There's a human driver element that has to be taken into account and delivered on. It's actually the root cause of delivering on the commercial imperative. So there's this human driver that delivers on the commercial imperative. And if you forget one of those two things, it won't work.
Right.
So with, again, this is a long-winded rant. This is the danger of putting me on a call with an espresso in my hand. I rant a lot, sober, let alone after a drink. Is that if you forget that we are a human business, we're human to human in the most part, whether it be a chat with someone in a call center, that's part of our business, doesn't matter where they are in the world, whether it be in the store, whether it be emailing to a ninja in the back of house, like, it doesn't matter. It's, we're human to human. That's what makes retail incredible. That's what makes us who we are. It makes us why we're consistent. It makes us why we've been around for, since the Istanbul bazaars. Like, it's like, this is the reason that we exist. We're a human to human business. And if you forget the human side, you're going to fall away. And, there are too many great brands that have done that, that have focused on the commercial imperatives alone, and it's never enough. And, I keep watching. I will never mention names, particularly in a format like this, but, like, I'm looking at brands that are these big, iconic brands that I think are making commercial decisions at the moment. People will have a memory about what you do during this crisis. People will say, you furloughed your workers straight away. You didn't pay your rents. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. You did it without care. People will remember that, and that will actually influence whether or not they will shop with you, because they watch the news or they read this. Now, it might not be a huge shift, but it'll be a shift. So it's like, people are watching how you react to this. And when you're in a human business, you've got to be human about it. And there's some incredible, wonderful stories coming out of retail right now of people hiring, of people, giving people pay rises, when, everything in terms of demand and commercials going down, because it's just the right thing to do to support your workforce that's supported you. So, yeah, I think there'll be a really interesting element to to the recovery, which is how have people watched how you handled this and how does that influence whether they give you money or not? I think that'll be freaking fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to piggyback off of, I mean, what you said right there is, and you kind of said like, I actually considered like that part about the whole friends or acquaintances on here, but I think that's the beauty of why we both love the retail industry, because I think in our industry, I hold this perspective personally. I think other people in retail do. To me, compared to other people out in the world, my view of acquaintance and friend is actually much closer than I think a lot of people view. I could work on a sales floor and meet many acquaintances during a day and have a 15-minute conversation with one person and consider us friends by the end of that 15-minute conversation, just because of that interaction, that human-to-human interaction, like you said, that we had. So with this like kind of format, as we continue with this, I mean, I truly believe I could hop on here and you could hop on here with a complete stranger, talk for half an hour and walk away friends, pretty much. You know, like it might not be a super strong, like tenured friendship, but still, you know, some kind of friends, you know stuff about each other, you know, you have that kind of bond or whatnot. And I think it's a very short jump from acquaintance to friends. So it's almost just like how many times you've spoken before that almost.
So, some of my best friends who have been, you know, great, amazing, incredible friends of mine for over a decade are people who I worked on the shop floor with. And because retail is just, you're right, it is this incredibly interesting, dynamic place that has wonderful humans. It just attracts wonderful humans. Some stay a short while because they're, you know, working whilst they're at uni. Some stay a long while. You know, I've told you my story before, but for anyone else, you know, I was studying at uni. I, you know, became a pilot for about 10 seconds before I couldn't anymore. And then I was just like, I adored retail though. So I will just go do that for a little while until I work out what I do next. And I realized that, hey, this is this stunning gift from the universe, to be fair, because I love this industry. I love what it stands for. I love what it does every day. I love how it changes society. I love the way that it influences society. I like the influence you can have when you're working in retail. It's like, it is just a beautiful, stunning place to be. And, you know, I wouldn't, you know, I look back on it and think, man, if there was that parallel universe where, you know, medical things didn't happen and I could be a pilot, I mean, well, yeah, I could be super happy flying 737s back and forth from Melbourne to Sydney. But I mean, I can't imagine it would make me happier than I am working in this industry now and right. You know, helping retailers try and be better. I think it's, yeah, I don't know. It's a gift. It's a gift. And it's a gift of an industry. So you're right. I mean, you know, we catch up all the time and you know, have these chats and say how quickly we've become friends. I think is right. An incredible testament to this kind of battle-scarred retailer view of the world. I think it's very cool.
On that note, I want to do kind of like a I'll share then you share kind of thing here because so I feel like there is with everything happening because everyone's kind of in the same situation all at the same time. I don't want to say groupthink per se, but there is like forming shared ideas in the public that sort of everyone seems to be believing. So I want to ask you after I'll share you mine, but I want to ask you kind of like if there's anything out there that you sort of hold the counter viewpoint to, or maybe something that's not maybe talked about in the public as much. For me, and this is not criticizing anybody because it's a complicated topic. Once again, the preface of this whole conversation is I don't know I don't know for sure. So it's not like me trying to predict anything, but everything we've been saying for the last 10 minutes is, to me, because retail has become and been founded on forever this human-to-human element, I personally think, and I've been founder of a tech company, so I run in like in more advanced, you know, circles even that, but I personally think the overarching theme of like everybody should be digital now. Everybody should have an e-commerce site. Everybody should be moving into this. I personally think it's not as simple of an answer as that. I don't think it's just like if you're a brick and mortar retail and you have no online presence whatsoever, you're not going to succeed. Because for us, we work with small retailers, and at a small retailer, you only have 10 employees. Every person is doing a very specific job. So yes, right now you are only online, so it's a different conversation for the month going into it. But I think if you're the number one person in your entire state or entire region at that building that human-to-human experience, and you've done that for 20 years, be careful about all of a sudden trying to go to create that same experience, because it's really hard to create that same experience not person to person in a digital environment. So I don't think it's as simple as every single person on earth, every single retailer should have a digital way of servicing them. It definitely should be considered as an extension. But I personally don't think it's as simple as like online is everything and it's the future. And if you don't have it, you're going to go out of business. Because for me, like the minute you show me that drink, honestly, like my first thought, because I personally love brick and mortar retail to where I started, and I love online retail too. But if I could walk into an Australian retailer and they could hand me an espresso martini, I would shop there forever.
Yeah, I mean, true. That's. I'm sure there are retailers that do it, but none that I can afford. I think the. I was going to make a joke about. No, I disagree. I think it's all digital. Shops will close forever. But no. Oh, I breathed in. That's a terrible idea to do with a fake cigar. No. I think you are. I think the way that you think about it is the reason why your tech company will do well in retail. So there are plenty of tech people who are unable to walk past their subjectivity. Mm-hmm. So they sit there and go, I believe in tech. I use tech. Everyone I know uses tech. Therefore, it's all about tech. That's obviously ill-informed and subjective. Mm-hmm. So, I mentioned this before, humans are a pack animal. We crave interaction. Now, some of us, I'm an introvert by nature, which I know my hat is not necessarily showing off right now. That's why, I was excited when you said I could drink. So for me, the idea of being a pack animal in a social interaction is I have a very small group of people I trust and I like to hang out with. Like that's my people. Mm-hmm. But I'm also happy to get up on a stage and talk and do because that's me, but that's just me. Everyone's going to be different about how they want to interact and how they want to interact with people and how they want to interact with brands. Brands have a personality whether we like them or not. There's plenty of behavioral evidence that shows that we do treat brands. We're talking to a consultant over the phone, it's like, you did this. It's like, well, no, that person didn't, but you're talking to the brand and you've given the brand a personality. That's how humans do it. It's how we've evolved to do it. So you will need to ensure that you maintain a relationship which is a brand to human, but a human to human relationship. And I think, what would the world look like without stores? Boring, probably. It'll be a bit Wall-E-ish, the Disney movie. We're all kind of wandering around with our drips. If someone hasn't watched that, they're going to go, what is this guy on about? Espresso martinis. The idea being that, it is absolutely human to human and it should be human to human. That doesn't mean that you don't have incredible digital experiences. Right. And, one of my incredible humans that I am privileged to have run into, in fact, a group of wonderful humans, I think the team that founded Showfields in New York. Mm. I've done a ton of, I've had a million conversations with them. I swear I brought 1 million people through their store at one point. They talk about it in a way which is, it's C-commerce. So, e-commerce with this whole idea of it's going to pick up and, Amazon's going to take over everything and that's it. We're never going to, shops will close, blah, blah, blah. Shops may close, brands do not. There's differences mm-hmm. in the way that businesses can react if they adapt. You need to have both though, so e-commerce, yes, it's really important. Convenience is important. Price proximity, which used to be getting a shop on my shop, putting a shop in the corner of my estate or where I live, my town, would be, how I got proximity. The internet solved for proximity. So now it's about price and branding and experience and transparency of your brand and your purpose. And there's a whole bunch of extra layers to it now. So yes, the internet is important and technology is important, but there is absolutely an incredibly important role for a physical store, which is both growth of brand, acquisition of new customers, retention of existing customers, fulfillment and returns. The returns crisis that's going to hit post COVID-19 is going to be incredible. Brands that don't have a solid reverse logistics process, who might have a really good forward logistics process, but have a terrible reverse, that's going to be challenging for them now, let alone without shops open. When shops do open, then there's going to be a whole nother thing that's going to happen. So how do you use stores to help you solve those challenges? There's a million reasons why I would happily say to anyone who thinks shops are closing and digital's everything, I would very proudly call them an idiot and tell them to stop there. I shouldn't say an idiot, that's unfair, but certainly they shouldn't be as subjective as they're being. Right. And they need to probably have a look at a bit more evidence than they are at the moment. Not saying it might not happen in 400 years,
Sure.
But in the
Sure.
next 30 or so, I can't see it happening.
Right. Absolutely. So
I'm out of drink. Does that mean we're out of time?
yeah, I think we should probably start wrapping up here because frankly, like if I drink too much, I'm not gonna be able to go back to work either. So and people are probably gonna tune out by now because we're gonna start rambling and stop making sense.
Yeah, we'll watch the ratings.
The views just like slowly trickle off at the end. Yeah, probably.
Who are these drunks? In weird coats.
So is there, I mean, like just on that note, I mean, is there something that you want to use this format to either send a message or share to the world, the retail community that maybe isn't being shared by all the media or the press or retail press right now, just to kind of end with?
I think retail is an industry that is constantly underrated. People look down on retail. They don't respect the duty that retail does for society. They don't, for whatever reason, respect the people who work in it. Like it gives most people employment at one point in their careers, between retail and hospitality. That's where everyone has a career at one point, usually. It's just an incredibly underrated place, and that infuriates me because of what it does do and the greatness that lies within its people, the greatness that lies in what it can do and what it can stand for. I think, again, have an espresso martini with yourself. Doesn't matter where you work, whether you're stocking shelves, selling on the shop floor, furloughed at the moment, whether you're an executive, whether you're a CEO. Take that second, have a breath, and be proud of retail and be proud of being in retail. And then try and work out what it is that you can do to help shift and reframe the way people see it as an industry. And that can come from actions, i.e. improving your rate of innovation, improving your rate of change, improving the way you rock up in the store format, the way that you rock up in your digital formats. And then, just every day to work. Like, just think about how it is that you can do that little bit difference that's going to help reframe it so that, it earns the respect it should. And, society, there's a whole nother call and a whole nother espresso martini on my rants about the way society measures people and success and their value and all that kind of crap. Let's not get into that now. But, be really damn proud for being a retailer at the moment, because we as an industry have stood up and done some incredible things. We are already incredible, but we can definitely be better. And if we just think about how we can, think about our customers more, think about the humans that are involved in our business more, and evolve the way that we innovate to be faster and smarter, then we will all be better for it at the end. And I think that will just be an incredible outcome if we all just did that little bit. It could just be one small point about telling everybody that you're proud to work in retail instead of worrying about it. I know I went through that. I had those moments of kind of like, I work in retail. It's like, well, why am I saying it like that? I'm really damn proud of the work that I do.
For sure.
I work hard. I work stupidly long hours. I deal with terrible humans. I deal with wonderful humans. I deal with all of these things. I should be damn proud of what I do, and retailers should be proud of what they do. So at the end of all of this, if there's nothing else good that comes from it, yes, there'll be some really crap, terrible, heartbreaking stories. But if there is some good that comes from it, is that our good friend Ron Thurston always says, retail pride. Let's boost up that retail pride. That'd be my one request.
For sure. And I can't say it much better than you said it. I am super, super proud to be in this industry and to be in retail. And I think everybody, especially the people who are furloughed, not to touch on that specifically, but I know you're taking, their hits right now. Be proud of, what you've done so far and what you can come back to. But I just want to take one kind of additional point to that and say, I think it's easy with what's happening right now because we're not a recurring business. People don't guaranteed come back every month. Every day is a new day. You don't know what you're going to sell, et cetera, et cetera. Inherently, what's going to happen, most people, unless you're Amazon, are going to be down in a lot of those respects. Foot traffic, sales online, and it's easy to get focused on, I think, the lost customers, when to me it just says you now have less customers, which means you have more time to wow those customers. If you had 100 customers before and now you have 50, you now have twice the time to cater to those 50. So I think everybody, if you're in brick and mortar retail, whatever retail, like you had said, just like the whole kind of point of this conversation is the human to human element is, yeah, exactly. And you can't put that away, the human to human element of it. So there shouldn't be a person that walks your floor that doesn't get a smile and a hello. There shouldn't be, a person that sends an email and doesn't get a support request back. Now's your time to just wow and give the highest level of customer service you've ever given in your entire career.
Yeah, completely agree. And it's like, it is, it will be tough, and there'll be commercial challenges, and there'll be Chapter 11s, and there'll be all of that stuff. It's really difficult. But you are right. There is think of the business that you can evolve to. I don't want to use, there's a lot of people talking about, how do people rebuild, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
That's so, anecdotal. Like every business there's some businesses with strong balance sheets that won't need to rebuild. There'll be businesses that, are in there are just different levels of business. Mm-hmm. But how do you, evolve? What's the next chapter of your book?
Yeah.
You want to write post this. So yeah, you're in the middle of writing the COVID-19, how we handled the crisis chapter. What's the next one look like? That's
the perfect line to end it. Cheers to that, buddy. I mean, we're going to end it there. That was perfect. Cheers to you, mate. And yeah, have a good
dinner jacket, mate. Looks great.
Yeah, you as well. I love your cigar.
Yeah. Have you noticed how I get more Aussie the more I drink?
Yeah, I did notice that actually. I love it. We should have another one.
Maybe later.
All right, we'll have to do this again sometime because I really enjoyed this.
No worries, mate. I
All right,
agree.
cheers, mate. Talk to you soon.